Welcome to Toy Hill Studio. My name is Kendall Kessler. I'm going to do another skyline painting, this time St. Louis, Missouri. Such a fascinating place, and that arch has always been just, to me, just incredible. It was completed in 1965, and then in 1967 they built a tram system so people can actually go up it. And there have been a number of people that have parachuted from it, and one person unfortunately died that way. But it's the gateway to Western expansion, and just really a really fascinating monument. So this time I thought I would get the sky and the water wet and let a lot of bleeding occur there. And if it drips into the rest, that's fine. And the rest, I'm not going to do that. And I have a feeling this one's really going to take some time, especially since I'm probably going to have to keep adding water. And there it is dripping down. Didn't want that, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do more of a dry brush technique on the buildings and the arch. Just always like to come up with really different things, try different things for these skyline paintings. If you go to them on my website, you will see a lot of really different approaches. So for this first part, I'm going to use a pretty big brush so I can move along, and I'm going to try real hard to keep my cups of water separate. That's really hard. So that one of them is just going to be water, and the other is going to have all kinds of paint in it. And just going to let the colors really bleed into the wet canvas. Move around. Just try different things. I'm not going to really stick to sky colors. I'm going to use them, but I'm going to use lots of colors. And just really make a creation. So it's all about to me. It's a beautiful day today. Always glad to have good light. Any artists watching this know that, God, light can be such a problem. Even if you have a good artificial setup, it still can be such a problem. If you've watched my videos, you've probably heard me say this before, but if it's really dark out, it doesn't matter that I've got daylight fluorescent lighting in here. It's just I can't see the warm colors very well. And then when I'm done, it's like, the warm colors are too strong. Oh, okay, I'm going to put some green in. Just really got to have some fun with the colors and let them bleed. Didn't really get it that wet, so I think I might add a little more water so it'll bleed a little more. But I don't want it to do too much. Don't want it to drip all over the place. But there, I did. Good. Brush in the right cup. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's dripping and all. A little. Paint is so fascinating. Encourage anybody to paint. You don't have to be a great draftsman to do some great things with paint. And this is one of the more interesting techniques of water media. Even though I'm using acrylic, I'm using it like a watercolor. Is that if you just get something wet and then you use really wet paint, it doesn't work real well if the paint's dry, you can get all this bleeding as it moves around. And the really interesting part to me is that you don't know what it's going to look like until it's completely dry. You think you do, but it just keeps on moving around. I know I'm going to have to do the water again because it's probably already dry by now. And then getting into the rest of it. It's going to take a lot of time because I'm going to use a small brush and try to get a real complicated system of colors played off of these large bleeded areas. I like what that yellow did. I wasn't expecting that. That's cool. It really, really moved around. Okay, well, I'm going to put a little more water into the water right through here to make sure I get that bleeding. And then I'm going to get real complicated with the rest of it, the arch and all the rest. So far I'm not real crazy about color combinations. I really like to have colors just really super vibrancy, just really playing off each other. And that's not happening right now, but it's okay. And as I said before, if you go back into a bleeded area, usually you kind of mess it up. Now, I have learned since saying that in a number of YouTubes that actually you can, but it does take a lot of skill to be able to do that without just creating a lot of awful edges and things. But I have done a few where I went back into a bleeded area and didn't mess it up, didn't lose the nice colors going around and around like that, and was able to modify it further. Okay, oh, I kind of like this now. I like the way the drips have happened. I'll put a little paint right through there, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so now I'm not going to use any more. I'm not going to add any more water to get to bleed more, so I'm going to get the dirty water out of the way here. So, always nice to have clean water. Now, here's where I'm not sure I'm going to do. But I am just going to have fun with this. And if I have to go back into it, if it takes too much time, already gone 6 minutes, then I'll do it off camera. But I want to get a lot of complexity. There's nothing wrong with paintings that aren't real complex. Minimalists sure prove that. But I really like a lot going on. I like to see a lot of brushwork, a lot of different colors, just a constant change. And of course, I like what I think it's safe to say most artists like is a lot of contrast. So by having those bleeded areas moving around and creating one textural surface and getting a completely different one with these more dry brush effect. As I've said before, the three main techniques of watercolors are dry brush, wet and wet, and the flat wash. I'm not using any flat washes, just the two. Two I like the best. What a lot of watercolors do is they build up flat wash and the wet and wet technique for a while, and then they go back in with some real tricky areas and all. Did I say that right? I'm really tired. Okay. If I didn't say it right, flat wash and wet, and then they go back into it with a lot of a dry brush. And it's really a fascinating medium, and most artists consider water media, and even though, like I said, I'm using acrylics, I'm using it like a watercolor, to be the hardest one. And I don't agree, but I guess that's because I'm an oil painter, and I really think oils are the most difficult, no matter how you use them. But there are a lot of people, a lot of artists that would completely disagree, especially since you can go over and you can change so much of what you've done with an oil painting, and it was invented so that it wouldn't dry so fast and you wouldn't get edges and all. And you could really do like still lifes where you can get that modeling without it turning into kind of an edge, which it would do with tempera, which was before oils. And that's another a tremendous advantage to that paint. But if you get into it, it really is something. It's there's just so many complexities to oil paint that I think the average painter, average artist that hasn't used it doesn't realize, which is why I definitely think it's the hardest, but I love it. I love it. There's nothing like building up oil paint for a surface. To me, that is so wonderful. And as I've said before, a lot of people tell me that my paintings make them want to touch them. Well, that's because the surface is so strong, it's coming out at you, and it just comes into the room, or office, or wherever it goes. And to me, that is just a fascinating experience. You don't have to have it under glass. And those colors last and last and last. I have some paintings in a family farmhouse that have been there forever. And now that my parents have passed on, I want to get them back. And my sister said, oh, they're probably just no good anymore. I guarantee you that they probably look just the same as when I made them. Oils are amazing. There are a few colors that change a little bit, like sometimes the pinks don't last as well. But other than that, oils are incredible. So are pastels. Soft pastels and oil paint. Boy, I'm starting to really get some interesting things going. They just don't change. Another reason I like them. Boy, you can tell I really like oil paint. I'll bet Utrecht is if anybody from Utrecht is watching this, they sell oils. They would be glad to hear me talking. I have been their customer for a long time. And Gamblin. I personally like Gamblin paint the best. So I use mostly Gamblin and Utrecht oil paint. And I'm very impressed that I'm not messing this up too much. You know, you can always go back. But it's nice to get the first shot. And you know, it's very expensive, but I really do, as I've said over and over again, I live to paint. Can't take them with me, so I work really hard to sell them. I really want them to be around after I'm gone. And I have artwork now in 32 states and 7 countries, and hope to keep going. I would like to see my stuff just never stop being shown somewhere, somebody's house, office, whatever. Boy, I'm really getting into the green in this one. But it's because, as I said, I really like that real strong, vibrant look, and my blue greens really stand out. I've mentioned this before. If you've watched my YouTube, you may remember that the famous artist May Stevens judged a competition once with my artwork, and when she met me, she said, the red-green painter. Sweet, I'll never forget that. And that painting won a Purchase Award. I really am into red-green contrast. It's funny, I don't know why, but I think it has to do with the person's personality, which are the complementary colors they respond to the most. The complementary colors are red, green, blue, orange, yellow, violet. My mother was really into yellow, violet. She had a real eye for art. She was a fantastic pianist. And I'll never forget hearing her play. I'm so sad we don't have recordings of it. That is a big shame. But I hear it when I play sometimes because I fortunately inherited her touch. And that is one of the greatest gifts I have ever gotten in my life, that I inherited my mother's touch on the piano. She had teachers telling her that she could have been a professional concert pianist. She had 4 kids, and that's what she did. Kind of hard to have 4 kids and have a career. She did start out trying to on the GI Bill, but it just didn't work out. Really don't want to have that, those white areas. But I also want to keep them bleeding, so I'm going to use a little more water when I do this. But she was a great mom, and we miss her very much. I'll never forget how beautifully she played. What a gift. In fact, one of her teachers told her that Beethoven would be proud of the way she played the Moonlight Sonata. And I believe it. I've never heard anyone play it with the incredible expression that she had. I asked her, how do you do that? When I hear pianists that are really good play something with a fantastic expression, I can sit down, I can imitate it. But even though I consider my playing to have expression, I don't come up with something like they do. I don't come up with some of these fascinating things, fascinating expressions that just to me are just amazing. I heard Leonard Bernstein one time play, was it Chopin? Yeah, I think it was a Chopin etude. And it's just incredible. It was so interesting, those decisions that he made. And I sat down and I could imitate it, but I sure as heck would never have come up with that. Boy, I'm really getting into music today. Also, I think I'm getting down to the end of this, and I really think it turned out pretty good. I do think it helps to just talk when I'm doing these paintings that I want to be just very creative and very expressive and experimental. I think it helps a whole lot to talk. I've had a lot of people comment, how can you talk when you're painting? Well, with these paintings, it really helps. Now, if I was working on my oil paintings, no way. I don't want music on, I don't want anything on. I'm just like, geared into it. But in fact, if someone comes in the room, I'd practically jump through the ceiling. But with this sort of thing, it really is helpful to me. Wow. If I do say so myself, I think it came out into a very interesting system of colors. I really like the way that yellow area becomes like a type of focal point. And it's like there's a connection between here, here, and here, which is a very, very prominent design in art when you have a connection between three things. Don't ask me why, it just tends to work. If you look at a lot of famous art, you'll see that. Well, thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to click on the link in the description to see the final painting. I may go back into this and do some more things with it. And also there are links to my website and other sites with my artwork.